kind of struck by the words of the song. I know it's not much, but it's kind of all that I have. Wonder what God can do with the little bit that we have. And probably that's one of the major themes of our time together. Welcome to Palm Sunday. At last, we have finally made it through a long and challenging Lenten season. Challenging not in a bad way at all. Honestly, it's much more challenging in that it's a productive, it's a stimulating season where we had to put forward the effort in order to make way in our souls for new life. It's 40 days of tending the garden of our souls, and that's a long time to stay focused and to really sort of get elbows deep in the springtime garden of our own hearts. And I think that at the end of that exercise, we should probably celebrate our success. I mean, there are a lot of ways for us to celebrate various accomplishments and to celebrate all kinds of achievements. You know, maybe you're like some of our family who will, when we celebrate, we gather friends and family together and we share the celebration. Or maybe you're going to make a cake. That seems to be a cultural expression of celebration. Or maybe we'll sit down to a meal. I think any celebration could use a little more ice cream. So whenever you're just taking somebody out for a cone, or whether we're having ice cream all set up for everybody, or perhaps our celebrations include lighting fireworks, or maybe even a parade, right? Well, there's an excitement to the air of Palm Sunday that lends itself, I think, to maybe it's parade worthy. Maybe our time together is actually parade worthy. I mean, who doesn't love a good parade? A parade, I think, is a good way to celebrate something important, don't you think? And so maybe we'll get a little feedback. What are some accomplishments that you think? What are some things that we should celebrate or that we do as a culture celebrate with a parade? What are some achievements that are parade worthy? Go ahead and shout one out. Okay, so yeah, July 4th, Independence Day. So every year since 1777, the greater Boston area has celebrated Independence Day with a parade that somehow includes the reading of the Declaration of Independence signed in 1776. What else? Christmas is parade worthy, right? But somebody else just said Thanksgiving over you. So Christmas and Thanksgiving. Do you know that that next fall in November, Macy's will celebrate 100 parades. They've been doing this parade for over 100 years. And in fact, the first parade started November 27th, 1924. Now, there were a couple years where Macy's didn't hold the parade, and that was because World War II between the years of 1942 and 1944. But this year, coming up, will be the 100th Macy's Day Parade. And for the first 3 years of Macy's parade, it was known as the Christmas Parade. Didn't know if you knew that. What else do we celebrate with a parade?
St. Patrick's Day.
Okay, St. Patrick's Day. What do we celebrate?
St. Patrick.
Right? They're like, do we celebrate St. Patrick? I mean, it has become for us in this area, right, more of a Irish heritage celebration. I think that's one of the things we celebrate. Sure. Yes. Anything else? Oh my God, yeah, okay, now we're talking real stuff here. In 2002, the New England Patriots defeated the LA Rams in the Super Bowl 20-17, and Boston celebrated with a duck boat parade. Since that time, 2002, there have been 13 different duck boat parades here in the City of Champions, right? We celebrate the Pats and the C's, the Sox and the Bruins. In the Church of Jesus Christ, we celebrate the conclusion of the Lenten season as we transition into Holy Week, with which we kind of observe the events leading to Jesus' crucifixion, death, and burial. We take that transition and we draw our attention to a parade. Parades, they're fun. And when I ask the question, who doesn't love a parade? Like, it's me, guys. I don't love a parade. It's the crowds. It's the stuff. But I can appreciate a parade. But parades are fun for me to watch on TV from a distance. Having it on the background while you're making Thanksgiving. But there's nothing really like being there, like seeing the parades live and taking in all of the sights and the sounds and buying a hot dog or a pizza from a vendor who's there on the street. You feel like you're a part of what's going on. And in fact, if you're there live, you are actually a part of what's going on. You become a participant in what everybody else is watching on television. Well, the Palm Sunday parade certainly has large elements of this celebrative idea. There are things that we celebrate, but its main purpose is to enact Jesus' festive entry into the holy city of Jerusalem, where he would be handed over, where he would celebrate Passover, where he would be tried and then executed and then buried. The Palm Sunday parade is a way for us to remember and celebrate the events that bring about our salvation. We proclaim, Lord, save us. And he's like, all right, this is how it happens. And throughout Holy Week, we observe those. The roots of the triumphal entry, the roots of Jesus' parade, the Palm Sunday parade, go all the way back to the Old Testament. So if you have your Bibles, I'd invite you to turn with me there to the book of the prophet Zechariah. Now, we don't preach from Zechariah very much, and so if you're looking to kind of find where that is, find Matthew chapter 1 and then just sort of flip to the left a couple pages and you'll find yourself into Zechariah. Today we're in the 9th chapter. We're going to read verses 9 through 12, and we'd invite you to stand with us as we read together the word of the Lord. Zechariah chapter 9, begin reading in verse 9. The prophet calls the people to rejoice greatly, O daughter Zion. Shout, O daughter Jerusalem. See, your king comes to you, righteous and victorious, lowly, and riding on a donkey. Not just a donkey, but on a colt, the foal of a donkey. I will take away the chariots from Ephraim and the war horses from Jerusalem, and the battle bow will be broken. He will proclaim peace to the nations. His rule will extend from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth. As for you, because of the blood of the covenant, because of the blood of my covenant with you, I will free your prisoners from the waterless pit. Return to your fortresses, you prisoners of hope. Even now I announce I will restore twice as much to you. This is the word of God for the people of God, and we say, thanks be to God. You may be seated. There's all kinds of ways to celebrate, and that's sort of what we're doing here. And that's what the prophet Zechariah calls the people of God to do, is to celebrate, rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Zion. And then it gives reasons why. I do think that the salvation of God is parade worthy. But one of the oldest and most common forms of parades are something that I didn't hear. Maybe you mentioned it, but I didn't hear us talk about too much, and that is a military parade. Oh, you did. So Sue's like, I got extra credit. Everyone give Sue an extra hug on her way out today. She nailed it. Yeah, a military parade is really important. The oldest parade ever recorded in history is from the land of Mesopotamia over 5,000 years ago. Guys, just to put that into perspective, that's almost 2,000 years before our text was even written. They were having military parades in Mesopotamia. Maybe a little more contemporary. In June of last year, 2025, the United States Army turned 250 years old. And our commander-in-chief threw a parade over his 79th birthday featuring over 6,000 troops in uniform. The parade itself included the M1 Abrams tank, had to slide that in there, the Apache helicopters, and it was a big deal. In fact, it cost American taxpayers an estimated between $25 and $45 million to hold the parade. And that's just taxpayers. There were independent donations even over and above that. Military parades are designed as a show of strength. They are a demonstration, hopefully, of national unity. It's a display of superior organization and discipline. Hitler used military parades as a propaganda tool for the Third Reich during World War II to spread fear and undermine his opposition, as if to say, look at what we could do. You guys don't want to mess with this, he would say. Similar parades were leveraged in Beijing and St. Petersburg and Korea. Zechariah chapter 9 promises a great deliverance of the people of God as Yahweh acts upon this grand stage of the world on behalf of his people, pushing nations around. This story today in chapter 9 of the book of the prophet Zechariah is set within the context of this military parade where an anointed king marches into a city and marches into the city in ways to intimidate. It's a really big flex. It's a show of force. It's a threat of violence here. Deliverance is at hand for God's people. Great powers are at work to liberate the people, and the people respond, Hosanna, right? God, save us. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Zion. God is working on your behalf. This is a show of strength and force. Except that the symbol of victory in Zechariah 9 is not the M1 Abrams tank or the B-2 bomber or the Black Hawk helicopter. There are no armored chariots drawn by teams of war horses, not rows of archers marching together as a single unit, not a fully armed battalion to remind you of the king's love. In Zechariah chapter 9, God does not leverage the strength of a superior military power to topple governments and uproot empires. God pushes the nation around the globe by employing the simple common things of everyday use. He chose not a war horse or a stallion, but a donkey. Not even a real donkey. The colt, the foal of a donkey, hasn't even learned how to actually work yet. In the modern mind, yours and mine, power is demonstrated by a very public demonstration of hostility. We are impressed by shock and awe. Words like ballistic and tomahawk and nuclear capture our attention. They light up our neurons and dilate our pupils. But Zechariah tells of a great king who comes in meek humility on the youngest legs of a donkey. It's a demonstration of power that you and I, we could easily miss if we were not looking for it. And quite frankly, we are not in the habit of looking for it. And so we miss it a lot. Here's the contrast. We imagine power to look like as it's played out across our screen in some action movie, right? We're somehow in the Middle East, in an armored Humvee accompanied by attack drones, wearing camouflage and carrying an assault rifle. We're on a mission affecting geopolitical change and bringing peace to areas of conflict. It is, we would describe, a just war. What we fail to consider is that God doesn't need, nor does he employ, the use of sophisticated targeting systems or missile launchers or submarines. In fact, the whole time we're caught up in this shock and awe with our pupils dilated and all of these displays of power, God is changing the world as the Prince of Peace shows up, I don't know, in my imagination, dressed in khakis and a button-down, driving a Mini Cooper with a cell phone. I mean, that's how he's changing the world. This is more like the contrast that the author or the prophet of Zechariah is talking about. Your king comes to you, grand displays, righteous and victorious, meek and humble, riding on a donkey. And this is the point, that God's influence around the globe, his action, his power is so far beyond human capability to direct events that he doesn't need our sophisticated advancement of weaponry or violence. A humble donkey in the hands of God is more than enough. That's more than enough. So the little bit that I have isn't even fit for a king. But imagine it in the hands of God. So rejoice and shout aloud, O daughter of Zion, and all who find their home in the house of God. Look and pay attention. Be sure not to miss it. Your king comes to you righteous and in humility, having secured victory, riding on a donkey, the colt, the foal of a donkey. This king, as the text goes on to say, will dismantle chariots and M1 tanks and remove war horses and turn away troops. And he will break the bow and ground attack helicopters. His platform for rule will be peace, but not just peace for God's people, not just peace for Israel, but peace for the nations. As far as the end of the globe, from the great sea to the end of the earth, the king's influence will have its full effect all the way across the world. And because of Yahweh's committed, sealed covenant in blood, he will begin this restoration project with the people of God. Friends, this is what the people have in mind. This is their history. This is the context with which they understand Jesus. As he crested the hill that day, along this journey down the hill to the city of Jerusalem, meek and humble, riding on a donkey, a foal, the colt of a donkey. I'm reading in Matthew chapter 21 now, if you want to follow along. First, 17 verses or so. As they approached Jerusalem, they came to Bethpage on the Mount of Olives. Jesus, he sent 2 disciples, saying to them, "Go to the village ahead of you, and at once you will find a donkey tied there with her colt by her. Untie them and bring them to me. And if anyone says of you, why are you untying it? Say, the Lord has need of them, and they will send it right away." This took place to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet. "Say to daughter Zion, see, your king comes to you, gentle, and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey." The disciples went and did as Jesus had instructed them. They brought the donkey and its colt and placed their cloaks on them for Jesus to sit on. And a very large crowd spread their cloaks on the road, while others cut branches from trees and spread them on the road. And the crowds that went on ahead of them and those that followed were all shouting, "Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest heavens." And when Jesus entered, the whole city was stirred, and they asked, "What is this?" Of course they were stirred. This is a military demonstration. This is a geopolitical announcement. But when Jesus entered Jerusalem, the whole city was stirred and asked, "Who is this?" And the crowds answered, "This is Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth in Galilee." And then this really important verse, and we'll stop after verse 12. Jesus entered the temple courts and drove out all who were buying and selling there. He overturned their tables of the money changers and the benches of those who were selling. As it is, okay, let's keep going. As it is written, "My house will be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers." But in contrast, the blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. I love that the gospel has the end of this sort of pericope, or the end of this story, with Jesus arriving at the temple. Now here in Matthew, he drives out the powerful and the influential and those who gain some type of advantage at the cost of others who have come to worship. His attention is focused on those who have needs, the lowly, the suffering, the marginalized, and the neglected. Jesus essentially turns over tables, and he pushes the powerful out to make room for the needy and the broken and the marginalized of the community. It is significant that the prince returns to his people, and the first place he enters is the temple where Jesus belongs. Now, the temple is the largest building anyone in that area has ever seen or known. It stands as this beautifully magnificent and ornate building, and it is the symbol of power for that region. This is the most magnificent place, and here must be where power is centered, because the presence of God is said to dwell there. But the temple is not a symbol of power that testifies to its own greatness or the greatness of its people. In fact, the temple exists, as magnificent as it was, as a beacon, not to attract powerful people, but to give hope to people who don't have any. If you need power, go to the temple. That's where it is. If you have power, you can go, but you don't need to go there. The temple is the place where people who don't have power, the powerless, should go. And there, they encounter God. They don't go there to be, shaken down by the people who are charging money for folks to come in, and they're filling up their places with their occupying their places with their wares to sell. Make room for the King. Make room for the people. The temple is not a sign to testify to its own greatness. It doesn't exist to attract powerful people, but to give hope to the powerless. Deliverance has come. Hosanna in the highest. God has returned to his people. The prince is now in residence. The presence of God is where it should be, here in the temple. To quote actually another prophet, a contemporary of Zechariah, Zechariah 9 says, "And of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end. And upon the throne of David and over his kingdom, he will order it and establish it with righteousness and justice from henceforth, now and forever. And the zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this." And we think to ourselves, at least I do, maybe I'll let you into my head for a little bit, but maybe you thought this too. I am just one person, powerless in a whole world of injustice and violence and pain. And the message today is take courage, because the prince is in residence now. He has come to his place. Now you have responsibilities, I know, and then you have hopes and dreams and plans, and I'll bet you believe that you can make a difference. But the problem is that we really lack significant resources, and we're constantly confronted by resistance. Don't give up. Keep pressing on. The King is in the room. God is dealing with you maybe today, and he's drawing you out into deeper waters, like the Spirit keeps pulling you in over your head. Now you're a little bit anxious, and you're a little bit concerned, and you're a little bit worried about what the future actually might hold for you. And you hear the voices in your head start to shift a little. For a long time, the prominent voice is, "You can't do that. That's not for you. Let someone else take care of that." Or you're not enough. You'll mess it up. They will find out about you. Suddenly that language is shifting, and you start to heal. Engage. It's your time. Take your place. Take a chance. Trust me. I got you. Fear not. Remember, it's these simple things with meekness and humility in the hands of God that have the greatest impact to make a difference and to change the world. God has entered the temple. The King is in the room. Now is the time for us. The challenge of this Lenten season would be for us, as Lent draws its conclusion and we turn our attention to the events that save the world, right? We're thinking about what's going to happen this week: betrayal, rejection, judgment, violence, execution, death, and burial. There's an ending and a chance, an opportunity for us to forget what Jesus did. But while our world scours the globe in search of shock and awe, demonstrations of grand power, God comes to us humble, largely unnoticed. He makes his home here among people who have spent the last 40 days making room for him and preparing the way. The advancement of the kingdom of God is not something to be observed from positions of comfort and safety, but it's a celebration for us to participate in. The Lord has come to his people today. The prince is in residence. The King is in the room. Our deliverance is at hand, and new life in a new world, it waits just beyond the cross. So rejoice, O daughters and sons of Zion. To all who make their home in God, look, don't miss it. Pay attention. Your king comes to you righteous and humble, having secured victory in triumph and riding on a donkey. Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed are those who come in the name of the Lord. Would you stand with us and let us rejoice and be glad together?